What's good, everybody? Today is September 4th. We had two really interesting long setups to check out today, both with a pretty high probability in my opinion. So without further ado, let's just quickly dissect price action and look at the lessons that the market really wanted to just show us today. All right, so let's just quickly clear up the charts right now, and then we'll go ahead and start doing some top down, right? So it's important to look at what we've been doing, right? So recently we just completed this 4-hour sell model. We placed an SMT at the low. Same thing I showed in yesterday's video, and then from here we started pushing more to the upside, right? So just quickly marking that SMT. We'll spit it right here. Jeez. All right, so from there, I'm expecting price to start moving higher because how time frames align. Now we're in some kind of monthly order block, all that stuff, right? We're expecting to start seeing a push higher, but we don't just guess, right? We wait for the market to confirm it. It confirms it with a change in the state right here. So we get change in the state, and then we end up getting displacement through for value gaps all get broken through, right? This value gap ends up getting completely ran through, right? Closed above. And then we end up pushing all the way to this high, right? Now this high becomes withdrawal liquidity. Once we've ran through this little fair value gap sitting right about here, that now tells us, okay, we have low resistance liquidity run up to this high, right? So opening the market today, actually that was yesterday, right? So yesterday we expected to see that get ran, but we saw some really inefficient action yesterday. So opening the market today, we hope to see that as our new draw on liquidity. And we had a very similar setup as yesterday, right? So zooming into maybe the 15-minute, we have the same draw on liquidity, same everything, but now we're opening the market right about here, right? So we're much closer, keep in mind, we're way closer, and we're doing the same thing. We're sitting in really nice low resistance liquidity to the upside, and then as well, we're back in an area where we have imbalances sitting right here within this leg. Let's quickly draw out to here, right? And then we have a low sitting right here. So now we have two reasons the market might want to tap this and then go higher. So we're just waiting, right? We're waiting for price to confirm it. And another thing is that we had 9:45 and 10 a.m. news, right? So that's like a double whammy, bro. So I wanted to wait for both of those to get over with before I look to take a setup, or I would have to take a setup right at open if the market presented it, right? I don't predict, I don't tell you when I'm going to trade. I just simply react, right? And that's what gives me strength to trade. That's why I can be so precise. So quickly looking in price action, right? As we look, we ended up starting to push lower right around 6:15. We just kind of started consolidating and pushing lower, setting in that generated liquidity for us to go ahead and run. So zooming a little bit more in, right, we see the setup that presented itself in the morning, right? And if you've been watching my previous trade recap videos, we see times where these last 2 weeks the market has been pretty inefficient during the actual open, and during the right before open, right around 9:26, we see a trade setup start, and it's like the market is ready to go to that to finish and run all that low resistance liquidity, and it's like instead of waiting for the market to open, it goes a little bit before, and it doesn't give that many people the opportunity to get in, right? So that's what has been playing out. So today, I just wanted to back test it, forward test it, right? I didn't end up taking the trade, but I was just watching and looking how the market went ahead and did it, right? So if we look right around 9:20, where was it? 9:25, we ended up placing an SMT on the low right here. We're not really at an area which we expect to reject, which is the big weakness of this trade, which is why I would never take this kind of trade. We're not an area which we expect to reject on the bouncing level, right? But we end up placing an SMT with this low, right? So SMT gets put in, and then from there, we make change in the state right here. Price starts to go, right? I'm not really thinking about it until about, actually no, I was targeting this internal high because I was looking at this model. It looks pretty clean from inside of price action, right? So we see SMT get put in, and then I'm watching. I'm like, all right, yeah, like price has been doing this. I'm expecting to see maybe play, right? Change the state right here. That was actually not too much displacement, but it was just kind of forward testing price, so I didn't want to actually trade anything. So this would have been your trade up to this high. And then if you look as well, if you'd have held that till the end of the model, you could have got some crazy R, right? But I'm not expecting anyone to take that. It's not really the best kind of trade anyway. So, but what setup actually did present itself? Well, after open, we saw this small internal high get taken, and then we didn't see it get taken on ES on NQ over here. But that's not going to be for me. That's not going to be a bearish SMT like this, right? Because if you look, the reason SMT matters and the way we can really tell is if there's actually a reason for price to reject at that point. There's actually a reason for that to be manipulation, right? But in a moment like this, where we haven't done anything now to go ahead and warrant manipulation and reason to push lower, I'm still waiting for these lows to get manipulated and then push higher. That's the point where it's like, all right, I'm not expecting that SMT to hold because there's no reason for it to hold, right? So looking at this setup, right around open, 9:30 candle, we end up taking this low and placing in yet another SMT, right? So this is the same exact setup before, but it was actually a line, and we had a little bit of something to bounce off of. So SMT got planted in right about here. SMT, and now we just look for change of the state with displacement. Goes right about here, change of the state. So we wait for that change of the state with displacement. Why are we bouncing here, by the way, is the biggest thing to look at, right? On the 5-minute chart, there's really not much to kind of warrant right here, honestly. We took some of the lows in liquidity. I'm not really gonna like find a perfect reason why, but I believe you're at consequent encroachment in one of these 1 hour wicks, something like that. I mean, there's always like a reason for the market to go is if it shows me it's gonna go, and if that 930 manipulation, like the volatility is there, then I'm expecting it to play, right? So we see the manipulation of this low, and now I'm at least looking for just this as my first take profit, and then from there we can look for the end of this internal model, and then we can look to see that external model get taken. So I go ahead, place my entry right about here, and I don't get tapped, right? No problem at all. This would have been your trade, 1.68R, and then finally up to these highs for 2.41, right? That would have been really efficient if the market decided to tap me, but market didn't want to tap me today, so no problem with that, right? So from there, after I see that kind of happen, and I see the market start to dump, and we also see SMT get planted, do we? Actually, no, we don't. Wait. I mean, no, we don't. But we also see SMT get planted in that level, and I'm just kind of like, bro, I might just chill out because I don't really think there's gonna be that much high quality opportunity until maybe news gets done with, right? So going on, we end up seeing 9:45 news come in right about, where's 9:45? Right here, pretty much do nothing. 10 a.m. news come in, also pretty much do absolutely nothing. And then once all that volatility is soaked up and the market set itself up, it's placed in this accumulation area, it's placed in the low resistant, all these highs that the market's looking to go now use as fuel to the upside. What it does is it manipulates lower into, look how we marked this imbalance on this liquidity, right? The market goes ahead and manipulates lower into that, placing an SMT at that level. That's a really nice external SMT, especially paired with the structure that we got from price. So external SMT right here. And then I'm waiting to see change of the state, right? And that was the only weakness of this trade, is that change of the state happened right here. So to trade this 1 minute model was very low RR. So you would have got something like this, right? It would have been 1.46, and then to that external high would have been 1.58. Really not a trade I'm interested in taking. So instead what I do is I zoom out, because now looking at this model, this imbalanced price action is too much to just go take a 1 minute trade off of, because like we said, we get 1.63R. So now I'm recognizing that the model's probably on a higher time frame, right? 3 minute, let's just go check that out. We're seeing a change of the state on same candle, and then 5 minute gives us, where does 5 minute value is too? Pretty much up to this point, right? So once we see change of the state on this level, and maybe we even see it on the 3 minute, whatever it might be, I'm expecting to now see some kind of 5 minute retrace, right? So change of the state happens, I guess it actually doesn't happen, right? But if we want to trade the 3 minute chart, looking at the 3 minute change of the state, once we get this retrace right here into that fair value gap, is an area in which we could potentially look to go take a 15-second internal model and then leave it for runners to the upside. That's so you can get really nice RR and get a really nice efficient trade. So the trade that I would have taken if I wanted to expose myself to some of that risk is gonna be this one right here. So I don't think I would have got tapped on this either. Jeez, bro, the market just playing today. I should check out ES. ES would have tapped too. So I mean, that's nice, right? So after you see that 3 minute change of the state, 1 minute change of the state, all that stuff, we zoom in, we look to find the internal model, right? This becomes the internal model. Every single retrace on the 5 minute chart, 3 minute chart becomes a 15-second or 30-second internal model, depending on how big it is, right? Now, the reason this probably wasn't the best trade, well, let me first tell you what you should have done, right? I'm gonna show you ES because ES was much more bullish and it actually tapped the entry, right? So the trade here becomes looking to trade this internal model, right? And if you don't know what the internal model is, it's simply just going to be this retrace, right? This is going to be your take profit, the high. This is going to be the low of the model, right? All I'm waiting for the model to do is retrace to the point in which it wants to retrace into. So that'll be the 5 minute fair value gap. That was probably somewhere right around here, right? So we tap into that. I'm expecting to see maybe some kind of SMT and manipulation, like all that good stuff. Right here, we tap in, manipulate lower, and then now this becomes our change of state level. I want to see that get broken with displacement, right? That's all I care about is the displacement, right? So once I see that candle close above, and if you use market structure shift, it would have been right here as well. That's when you can look to add your entry right about here, and then put this right here, and then stop or take profit at this high for a quick efficient 1.75, and then leave the rest for this 2.88. If this would have played, this would have been the better one, where we end up getting tapped right about here. Bro, it's sad we didn't get tapped. Say we got tapped, and then we go right here, and then this model runs to first take profit, and then you can use standard deviation to look to see how we could have got this take profit, right? And this is usually what the trades end up looking like, right? It usually ends up looking like a just complete snipe of that retrace. And then I like to use, quickly marking it out, I like to use these standard deviation levels to see like right here, 22.5 price reaction. That's why we get that pullback into here, which becomes that breaker. Then we push higher, right? So I kind of like to use the standard deviation levels to look where can I take profits. Like right here, if you'd have taken at 3.5, you could have got a nice one. If you got 4, you wouldn't have got really anything extra. But yeah, I mean, that's how I like to leave my runners, but we never even got tapped in this trade. And another reason why this wasn't the best setup if you did take it was because looking over here, when you actually did get tapped, you're trading against two inefficiencies right here. So say these wanted to hold, or say this was a 30-second imbalance, it wanted to hold, right? So what the market will usually do is when we place in those imbalances, we usually would go ahead and do something like this, where we tap into them first to mitigate them. Then we start pushing lower, stop whoever got in early long out. Then we make the entry pattern, invalidate all the imbalances, right? And then we start pushing higher up to this external draw, right? This is usually what you do. And if you would have traded this, I mean, check out that R. It's probably like way better. Yeah, like a much better R. And of course, I'm just drawing this in, but that's usually what I see play out. So that's why I don't think this would have been the best trade. Instead, you want to be looking for when price has that generated liquidity right there that you can go ahead and look to trade, right? Another setup I saw on this continuation up to that external high was right around here. I don't think you got tapped on this one either, which is kind of sad. There was an SMT on this level right here. So SMT, and then we see a change in the state right here. Actually, you don't, bro. I guess you wouldn't have had to change the state. There might have been an internal SMT or something like this right here. And then we could have looked to see changing the state on this level. Boom, boom. And then you could go and check to take some kind of long up to, like I said, the same internal model high, which would have been right about here. So internal model high. And then kind of a buns R. And then you can look to trade the external model. So all the way up to this draw, right? And if you do it, the whole gold in this stuff is the runners and then that safe initial take profit. That's why I love to trade that system. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my section of the day. I don't think there's really much too interesting to look at. Market open setup was really clean over here on NQ. I thought that was nice. Only thing that didn't make it A+ was that we didn't take some sort of sell side liquidity over here when we took internal liquidity and blasted off from there, right? But I mean, it's about recognizing the open volatility and seeing, okay, why should price even go here? Because of that open volatility, right? That's the whole reason why. Yeah, but overall, I think it was pretty great. I think it was a good way to kind of get further into the week. Tomorrow, we have some news, so we could expect to see some inefficient or efficient action. Just depends what the market wants to give us. So overall, yeah, I mean, I think this was a pretty great day to dissect, learn some lessons. And overall, bigger time frame, it looks like we're definitely not going to be bullish too, at the very least this high tomorrow. If we don't take that in the overnight session, should give us some nice opportunity where we can maybe see some Asia consolidation, London push lower, and then New York manipulation, boom, boom. That'll be our trade up to that extra high. That would be pretty sick if that happens, but it's all about just waiting for the market to give us the right opportunity, being able to discern it, knowing your strategy so well, and just being that faithful executor that will yield you that consistent fruit over time. That's all that trading is really about. So thank you all for listening. I hope you guys could learn some great stuff from the day. Yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty interesting day to look at. Yeah, that's the predictions for going into tomorrow. And overall, yeah, so I hope you guys learned something. And if you like the way I watch the charts, the way I dissect price action, the way I trade consistently, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Look at my narrative video I just made. It was really fat, it was really nice, really great explanation. No one's even explained narrative on YouTube like that, so I think it's an invaluable video if you're just learning to trade and you want to understand like actually why the market moves, right? So overall, I hope you guys learned something from the video, and yeah, hope you guys have a good one. So peace out, boys.